Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel where we continue exploring Messianic Judaism. Today we will discuss a topic that often shocks and paralyzes people with its mysticism, like a snake Kabbalah. What is Kabbalah? Write in the comments what first comes to your mind. What does the New Testament have to say about Kabbalah? Let's try to unveil this mystery. In the New Testament, there are enigmatic statements such as "we will not all sleep, but we will all be changed," or "a hardening has come upon Israel, until the full number of the Gentiles has come in." These phrases are imbued with symbolic language typical of Kabbalistic thought. The mysteries of Kabbalah are not something that can be grasped by rational thought alone, but are insights that reveal more of the divine. There is a book in the Bible that raises many questions about its presence in the scriptures, the Song of Songs. Some people, who claim to believe only what is written in the Bible, might be puzzled by this book, as it seems to be purely an erotic poem at first glance. However, it is actually an allegory of the relationship between God and the people of Israel, Christ and the church, a divine romance in the Bible. The entire experience of the Jewish people, all the attempts to seek God, the hidden knowledge and guesses that can be caught and understood, this is Kabbalah. Kabbalah is the secrets that are revealed to us, the ideas about the plans of the Almighty, and how the world is structured and its purpose. Kabbalah is a mystical path that leads us to a deeper understanding of God and His plans. In the comments to this video, share your thoughts and discoveries about Kabbalah and its connection to the New Testament. We are interested in your opinions and questions. All these attempts to look beyond the simple meaning of the Torah, to peer around the corner to see if our beloved Christ is there, this is the original essence of Kabbalah. When Yeshua says to Peter, "Peter, Satan has asked to sift you all like wheat," the original word translated as asked actually means bargain. For this is the hidden knowledge of Kabbalah. And when Yeshua says, "In my Father's house are many rooms," this is Kabbalah. There are parallels to this in Kabbalah, where it is said that there are many different temple gates and rooms in the house of the Almighty. This is Kabbalistic thought. Nowadays, many say that only through special knowledge can one be saved. In the most primitive form, if you do not confess every syllable, every point of the creed, you are not saved. The idea of salvation through knowledge also appears in Kabbalah, where people say, "I know a secret, there's a secret here. I know where the door is, and he knows where the key is, and we need to start trading these secrets." I believe that this mystery is not given to us just to exalt ourselves above others, but to serve one another. It is the mystery of perfect knowledge, but we are not perfect people. People start inventing secret knowledge and try to create instructions for controlling God. But Kabbalah is the hidden knowledge and attempts to understand the structure of the world. And there were people who withdrew from society, who truly secluded themselves, immersing deeply into this. And then a woman comes and says, "I want to cast a love spell on someone." There's an option to teach her something, tell her that this is wrong and will bring no good, or to give her a recipe with a rat's tail, 2 thistle flowers, half a glass of wine, and the eye of a wolf caught at midnight, and many will believe this recipe. Of course, this has nothing to do with Kabbalah. It's some medieval nonsense, some borrowed and altered magic, and this is what's often called Kabbalah, but it's all superficial. If we talk about the real meaning, it's about the experience of understanding God's plan, the increasing influence of the Holy Spirit to understand the Torah, and accumulating all these insights gained this way. It's an attempt to understand the structure of the world, an attempt to cleanse and purify oneself, studying the anatomy of sin, how sin operates within a person. This is what true Kabbalah is. As always, true Kabbalah is almost elusive, because there are some commercial projects floating around, and not everyone is allowed to access true Kabbalah. Typically, only men over 40 who are at a certain spiritual level study Kabbalah to ensure they don't lose their sanity. However, many books on practical Kabbalah, filled with secret recipes, stones, and talismans, are readily available and translated for wealthy Americans. There is a demand for this kind of literature and Kabbalistic services, and this demand creates supply. This is how a certain kind of Kabbalah comes into being, but it has no connection to true Kabbalah. We must remember that with all these fears, no unclean force can affect us unless we allow it. Therefore, a Christian believer should not fear Kabbalah. We know who we serve and do not want to serve anyone else. We won't fall under any other authority, and we can discern what is written. The cornerstone of traditional Judaism is the belief in the one God. Belief in the multiple nature of God is seen by many Jews as a sign of paganism. However, Kabbalah teaches the composite unity of the deity. Kabbalah says that the infinite and radically transcendent Ein Sof, the infinite God, reveals himself through his sefirah. The sefirot are the 10 most apparent qualities of the deity. Being united with the Creator, they are also the spiritual garments of the Creator and rays of light sent by him. The sefirot are aspects or attributes of the Creator through which God communicates with his creation. The knowledge of the lower 7 sefirot was derived from King David's address to the Lord in 1 Chronicles 29:11. Yours, Lord, is the greatness Gejula, and the power Gevurah, and the glory Tiferet, and the majesty Netzach, and the splendor Hod. For everything in heaven and earth is yours, Yesod. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom Malchut, and you are exalted as head over all 2 of the remaining 3 sefirot. Chokmah and Bina, wisdom and understanding, are the most frequently mentioned pair of God's attributes throughout the Bible. And the highest sefirah, Keter, crown, symbolizes God's rule and authority as King of Kings. As many Kabbalah scholars point out, this is reminiscent of the metaphors used in the New Testament. Both Kabbalah and the New Testament affirm that God communicates with his creation humans through terms familiar from their life experiences. Kabbalah uses the terms sefirot, while the New Testament speaks of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. All these are partly attempts to look beyond the simple meaning of the Torah, to peek around the corner, to see if our beloved Christ is there. This is Kabbalah in its original sense. When Yeshua says to Peter, "Peter, Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat," the word translated as asked is actually bargained. This is the hidden knowledge of Kabbalah. And when Yeshua says, "In my Father's house are many mansions," this is Kabbalah. There are parallels in Kabbalah, where it is said that there are many different temple locks, rooms in the house of the Almighty. This is Kabbalistic. Nowadays, many say that one can only be saved through certain special knowledge. In the most primitive sense, if you don't profess every single syllable, every single dot of the creed, you are not saved. The idea of salvation through knowledge also arises with Kabbalah, with everyone claiming, "I know some secret. Here's some secret. I know where the door is, and he knows where the key is, and we need to start trading these secrets." I believe that this secret is not given to us simply to exalt ourselves over others, but to serve one another, to possess the secret of perfect knowledge while being imperfect people. People start inventing secret knowledge and try to create some instructions on how to control God. But Kabbalah is about secret knowledge and attempts to understand the structure of the world. There were people who withdrew from the world, really withdrew from everything, and immersed themselves in it. When a woman comes and says, "I want to cast a spell on someone," there is, of course, an option to teach her something, to tell her something, and to say that it's not good, it won't bring any benefit. On the other hand, you could give her a recipe involving a rat's tail, 2 flowers of thistle, half a glass of wine, and the eye of a wolf caught at midnight, and this would be a real recipe that most people would believe in. Of course, this has nothing to do with Kabbalah. It's some kind of medieval nonsense, some kind of magic borrowed from somewhere, altered a bit in Voila. You have so-called Kabbalah, but it's all superficial. If we talk about the real meaning, it's the experience of understanding God's plan, the increasing influence of the Holy Spirit in understanding the Torah, and accumulating all these understandings achieved in this way. It's an attempt to understand the structure of the world, an attempt to cleanse oneself, to study the anatomy of sin, how sin works in a person. That's what true Kabbalah is. As always, true Kabbalah is almost elusive because there are some commercial projects on the surface, and not everyone is allowed into true Kabbalah. Usually only men over 40, who are at a certain spiritual level, study Kabbalah to ensure they don't lose their minds. Many books on practical Kabbalah, filled with secret recipes, stones, and talismans, are readily available and translated for wealthy Americans. There is a demand for this kind of literature and Kabbalistic services, and this demand creates supply. This is how a certain kind of Kabbalah comes into being, but it has no connection to true Kabbalah. We must remember that with all these fears, no unclean force can affect us unless we allow it. Therefore, a Christian believer should not fear Kabbalah. We know who we serve and do not want to serve anyone else. We won't fall under any other authority, and we can discern what is written. The cornerstone of traditional Judaism is the belief in the one God. Belief in the multiple nature of God is seen by many Jews as a sign of paganism. However, Kabbalah teaches the composite unity of the deity. Kabbalah says that the infinite and radically transcendent Ein Sof, the infinite God, reveals himself through his sefirot. The sefirot are the 10 most apparent qualities of the deity. Being united with the Creator, they are also the spiritual garments of the Creator and rays of light sent by him. The sefirot are aspects or attributes of the Creator through which God communicates with His creation. The knowledge of the lower 7 sefirot was derived from King David's address to the Lord in 1 Chronicles 29:11. Yours, Lord, is the greatness Gejula and the power Gevurah and the glory Tiferet and the majesty Netzach and the splendor Hod, for everything in heaven and earth is yours, Yesod. Yours, Lord, is the kingdom Malchut, and you are exalted as head over all 2 of the remaining 3 sefirot. Chokmah and Bina, wisdom and understanding, are the most frequently mentioned pair of God's attributes throughout the Bible. And the highest sefirah, Keter crown, symbolizes God's rule and authority as King of Kings. As many Kabbalah scholars point out, this is reminiscent of the metaphors used in the New Testament. Both Kabbalah and the New Testament affirm that God communicates with His creation humans through terms familiar from their life experiences. Kabbalah uses the term sefirot, while the New Testament speaks of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Like the New Testament, which speaks of one God in 3 persons, Kabbalists recognize the multiplicity within the deity. Expressions of multiple unity of God, people, and other beings are often found in Kabbalistic literature and do not present theological obstacles for Orthodox Jewish mystics. Rabbi Eliezer said, just as 4 sections of a walnut are connected on one side and separated on the other, so all parts of the heavenly chariot are united in perfect unity, but each performs a particular function. The tree of life branches out in different degrees in all directions, each different from the other, but together they create unity in the form of branches, leaves, and roots. This mystical logic is evident not only in medieval documents such as the Zohar, but also in modern times. The Tanya, a fundamental work of Hasidic philosophy written by Rabbi Shneur Zalman, states He and His expressions are one, He and His causes are one. All this is divinity. He and His name are one. Such thinking has existed in Judaism for a long time. For example, the Holy Spirit, which some rabbis call Shekinah, i.e., the dwelling of God's glory, was considered a second person of the deity at the beginning of the Talmudic period. But mystics went beyond recognizing God as 2 in 1. They claim that the sefirot are organized into 3 pillars in the eyes of Kabbalists. The true nature of God is 3 in 1. The Sonsino Zohar says, "Hear, O Israel, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai is one." These 3 are one. This is similar to the mystery of the audible voice, for although it is one, it consists of 3 elements: fire, air, and water. So too, in the mystery of the 3-dimensional divine manifestations of Adonai Eloheinu Adonai, 3 images forming a unity. When studying the Torah, we must remember that it is a single whole, and each letter, each word, and each episode is interconnected. In addition to the 613 explicit commandments, the Torah also contains numerous teachings and lessons. To discover them, one must seek hidden connections between descriptions of various events, analogies, and patterns. To accomplish this task, knowledge of Kabbalah is necessary. Tana of the 2nd generation, Rabbi Akiva's disciple Shimon Bar Yochai, considered the stories of the Torah to be garments, the commandments to be the body, and Kabbalah to be the soul of the Torah. Let's try to analyze the following interconnected episodes in this video: the flood, Abraham and Egypt, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, the salvation of Lot and his family, Jacob's escape from Laban, the exodus of the Jews from Egypt. We trace the connection between these episodes based on the following considerations. All participants were under the sway of supreme evil that they could not overcome themselves. According to Kabbalistic principles, the higher the root of the animal soul, the lower it can descend. This means that the souls of extreme evildoers originate at a level of high divine revelation, making them very powerful. This applies to ancient generations, pharaohs during Abraham's and Moses' periods, inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah, Laban and Esau. This paradoxical fact requires further explanation, which we will provide later. In all these episodes, there was direct divine intervention and miraculous deliverance. None of the characters in these episodes completely parted with evil. Noah took a vine branch into the ark. Hagar left Egypt with Abraham and Sarah. Lot's wife looked back. While fleeing Sodom, Rachel stole Laban's idols. During Jacob's escape, Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, accompanied by a mixed multitude Egyptians who joined the Israelites. All these episodes had extremely negative consequences. Let's examine each episode separately. Pharaoh's retribution in the Torah. It is written, "And there was a great famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land." As they approached Egypt, Abraham asked Sarah to say she was his sister. Pharaoh took Sarah into his palace and rewarded Abraham with livestock, servants, and maidservants. According to Sarah's words, the Almighty struck Pharaoh and his household with plagues. Bereshit Rabbah provides the following description. Rabbi Levi said an angel stood all night with a rod in his hand and struck. If she said hit, he hit. If she said stop, he stopped. Pharaoh realized he had been deceived, returned Sarah to Abraham, and rewarded him with money. Abraham and Sarah returned to the Holy Land. After some time, it is revealed that Hagar, an Egyptian woman, accompanied them and became Sarah's maidservant. Many commentaries are dedicated to this episode, and the sages' opinions differ. Rashi writes the famine came upon the land to test Abraham and see if he would question the words of the Almighty, who told him to go to the land of Canaan but now forced him to leave it. Therefore, Abraham is credited with not questioning the Almighty and going down to Egypt. The same opinion is held by Abraham ibn Ezra. However, Ramban holds the opposite view. In his commentary, he writes that our patriarch Abraham committed a great sin by putting his righteous wife in a sinful situation out of fear that the Egyptians might kill him. He should have trusted in the Almighty, that he would save him and his wife and all that belonged to them, as the Almighty has the power to help and save him. Moreover, his leaving the land to which he was instructed to go due to the famine was a sin because he should have known that the Almighty would save him from death by starvation. As a result of Abraham's actions, his descendants were sentenced to exile in Egypt. The idea that Abraham's descent into Egypt led to the subsequent Egyptian exile is also expressed in the Zohar. So, Hagar came out of Egypt with Sarah and Abraham. It is important to note information about Hagar is provided in the Torah immediately after the prophecy of the Egyptian exile of the Jews. Who is Hagar, and how did she come to the house of Abraham and Sarah? The Torah does not say. However, we read in Bereshit Rabbah, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai said Hagar was the daughter of Pharaoh. When Pharaoh saw what was done for Sarah in his house, he gave her his daughter. He said, "It is better for my daughter to be a handmaid in this house than a mistress in another house." We believe that analyzing the consequences of Hagar's appearance in the house of Abraham and Sarah allows for a different explanation of the events that took place. Pharaoh was the ruler of the most powerful empire. A small tribe led by a shepherd came to his country. The shepherd had a very beautiful sister. Pharaoh took the sister into his palace and rewarded her brother with immense wealth. From Pharaoh's point of view, he acted within the law. However, it turns out that the shepherd deceived him by passing off his wife as his sister. This was followed by punishment and the departure of Abraham's family from Egypt with great wealth. What did Pharaoh feel during this? Primarily immense, undeserved humiliation from his perspective. It should be noted that being punished by a woman was particularly humiliating for him. Confirmation of this can be found in the book of Judges. And Abimelech came unto the tower and fought against it and went hard unto the door of the tower to burn it with fire. And a certain woman cast a piece of a millstone upon Abimelech's head, and all to break his skull. Then he called hastily unto the young man his armor-bearer, and said unto him, Draw thy sword, and slay me, that men say not of me. A woman slew him, and his young man thrust him through, and he died. At the same time, Pharaoh must have felt both fear and hatred. Fear because he understood that the supreme power was on Abraham's side. Hatred because of the immense humiliation. It is reasonable to assume that Pharaoh wanted revenge but could not openly do so out of fear of the supreme power. He gave his daughter Hagar as a handmaid. Pharaoh understood that Hagar, a princess who had many servants herself, would never reconcile herself to being a handmaid in Abraham's house, and sooner or later, this would show. Thus, Pharaoh laid the foundation for a potential conflict in Abraham's household, and the events that followed confirm that Pharaoh's plan worked. As evidence of the success of the plan, we cite the following arguments. Information that Hagar came out with Sarah and Abraham is provided in the Torah immediately after the information about the Egyptian exile. We can assume that Sarah had many maidservants, including those from Ur of the Chaldeans, where her family lived. However, she specifically gave Hagar, an Egyptian, in marriage to Abraham. This fact is thought-provoking because, from the Torah, we know that Abraham's custom was to marry women from among his relatives. Hagar becomes pregnant and immediately rises above Sarah, who loses her value in her eyes. In Bereshit Rabbah we read Rabbi Gun and Rabbi Ermiao, in the name of Rabbi Hai bar Abba, said, Hagar said to them, Sarah, my mistress appears pious, but she is not. If she were pious, look how long she could not conceive, while I was able to conceive in one night. The fact that Sarah gave Hagar to Abraham in marriage indicates that she was absolutely confident in Hagar's loyalty, which in turn means that Hagar demonstrated her loyalty to Sarah. However, as soon as Hagar becomes pregnant by Abraham, she changes her behavior and begins to scorn Sarah, effectively betraying her Pharaoh's plan in action. Sarah reproaches Abraham for his inaction and calls him to divine judgment Aviyah. In Bereshit Rabbah, we read Rabbi Tangun, in the name of Rabbi Hai the Great, and Rabbi Berehi, in the name of Rabbi Eleazar, said, "He who stirs up the measure of judgment will not escape it himself." Sarah's lifespan was to be the same as Abraham's, but because she said, "Let Aviyah judge between me and you," 48 years were deducted from her life. Since a challenge to divine judgment is an extreme measure, it can be assumed that a major quarrel occurred between Abraham and Sarah, leading to a misunderstanding, causing Sarah to turn to the Almighty. Interim conclusions: because of the Egyptian Hagar in the household of Abraham and Sarah, there was a significant discord, and Sarah's lifespan was shortened by 48 years. People in a state of quarrel and discord cannot serve the Almighty at a high spiritual level. Thus, as a consequence of the episode with Hagar, the spiritual level of service of Abraham and Sarah was lowered. However, the negative consequences of the descent into Egypt and the appearance of Hagar in Abraham's household do not end there. Abraham gives Hagar into Sarah's hands, and she begins to oppress Hagar. Hagar flees from Abraham's house. Hagar's escape was an extraordinary act, as the flight of a slave in those times was punishable by death. The fact of Hagar's escape indicates her strong and independent character. Near the well in the wilderness, Hagar encounters an angel of the Almighty Aviyah, who orders her to return to Sarah and informs her that she will bear a son, whom she should name Ishmael. Hagar appeals to the Almighty Aviyah, calling him You, the God of Seeing, and names the well Bir Lahai Rorwai. The name of the Almighty, El, corresponds to the quality of mercy in creation. Hagar returns to Abraham's family and gives birth to a son, whom she names Ishmael. Thus, the Almighty fulfills Abraham's request to give him an heir, but as a result of the descent into Egypt, Abraham's firstborn is born not from Sarah but from Hagar, the daughter of Pharaoh. Abraham and Pharaoh become relatives, and through Ishmael, the lineage of Pharaoh continues. Sages noted that the Ishmaelites were the greatest enemies of the Jews. Sometime after the birth of Isaac, Sarah orders Abraham to expel Hagar and Ishmael, saying, "The son of this maidservant shall not be heir with my son Isaac." Then in the Torah we read, "And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son." One can imagine Abraham's anguish having to cast out his firstborn, but then the Almighty appears to him, and what is particularly important, under the name Elohim, which signifies the measure of judgment. The Almighty commands Abraham to do what Sarah demands and promises to take care of Ishmael. The appearance of the Almighty to Abraham under the name Elohim signifies that the actions of all the characters in the episode will be subject to judgment with corresponding consequences. Abraham sends Hagar and Ishmael away with almost nothing. They receive only a piece of bread and a skin of water, which meant almost certain death in the desert. This act by Abraham requires analysis. According to Kabbalah, Abraham epitomized the quality of chesed love, kindness, generosity in its absolute expression. Abraham welcomed strangers, fed and gave them drink, inviting them to unite with the one God. However, sending Hagar and Ishmael into the wilderness almost empty-handed is an act contrary to the quality of chesed. Commenting on this action, Rashi explains Abraham did not give Ishmael gold and silver because he hated him for his evil deeds. However, this comment contradicts his own commentary explaining the Almighty's request to Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. In the Torah, we read, "And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son, whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and get thee into the land of Moriah." Rashi comments Abraham replied to him, "I have 2 sons. He said to Abraham, You're only one. Abraham replied to him, This one is the only one of his mother, and that one is the only one of his mother. He said to Abraham, Whom thou lovest. Abraham replied to him, I love both. He said to Abraham, Isaac. We see that these 2 comments contradict each other. In the first, we read hated, in the second, love. Another explanation must be given for Abraham's unnatural act. The key to understanding lies in the following words of Sarah to Abraham: Cast out this bondwoman, and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son. From these words, we can infer that Sarah not only ordered the expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael, but also prohibited giving them any possessions. The decision by Abraham and Sarah to expel Hagar and Ishmael from their household, as recounted in the biblical narrative, is a tale rife with complexities and moral dilemmas. Sarah's command to Abraham to cast out Hagar and her son Ishmael, stemming from the strife between the two women and their offspring, marks a pivotal moment in the Abrahamic saga. The expulsion, while appearing harsh, reflects a deep-seated tension within the household, exacerbated by the birth of Isaac, the long-awaited son of Abraham and Sarah. Sarah's insistence that Ishmael should not share in Isaac's inheritance underscores the magnitude of the conflict. Abraham's compliance with Sarah's directive, sending Hagar and Ishmael into the wilderness with minimal provisions, raises ethical questions about the treatment of the vulnerable and marginalized. The subsequent intervention by the divine, promising to protect Ishmael and ensure his survival, adds a layer of divine justice to the narrative. Moreover, the subsequent test of Abraham's faith, wherein he is commanded to sacrifice Isaac, his beloved son, highlights the complex interplay between human agency and divine decree. The episode serves as a profound meditation on the nature of obedience, sacrifice, and the inherent challenges of navigating familial relationships amidst divine intervention. In exploring these themes, the biblical narrative offers timeless insights into the complexities of human relationships, the nuances of ethical decision-making, and the enduring legacy of faith. As justification for the connection between the Akedah and the expulsion of Ishmael, several arguments are presented. Firstly, after Hagar flees from Abraham's household, she encounters an angel who reassures her of her future and instructs her to return. This episode occurs near a well which Hagar names Bir Lahai Roroi. Later, in the account of Isaac's meeting with Rebekah, it is mentioned that Isaac was returning from the well of Lahai Roroi. Rabbi Rashi explains that Isaac went to the well to retrieve Hagar, known as Keturah, to bring her back to Abraham after Sarah's death. Additionally, after Abraham's death, Isaac returns to the well of Lahai Roroi. While there is no explicit commentary by Rashi on this, it suggests Isaac's continued connection to the well. However, the question arises, how does Isaac's proximity to the well of Lahai Roroi relate to the Akedah? In the Torah, when Isaac asks Abraham about the sacrificial lamb, Abraham responds, God represented by the name Elohim, denoting judgment will see for himself the lamb. When Abraham is about to sacrifice Isaac, an angel intervenes and Abraham names the place Adonai Yireh, meaning God will see. This suggests a profound connection between the Akedah and the concept of divine vision or revelation. In the episode of Hagar's flight, it is noted that an angel of Adonai finds her near a well in the wilderness, and she names the well Bir Lahai Roi. The name Adonai represents the entire system of the sefirah and can embody both mercy and judgment. The name Elohim corresponds to the sefirah of chest kindness, love, dissemination. Both instances involve an encounter with an angel of Adonai, and both places are named similarly. However, in the latter case, the name Elohim is added. This suggests a parallel between the Akedah and Hagar's encounter, emphasizing divine judgment and mercy. Overall, these connections underscore the intricate web of symbolism and meaning within the biblical narrative, shedding light on the profound interplay between human actions and divine intervention. So, the well of Lahai Roi was a site of significant revelation of divine information, albeit somewhat lesser than the place where the future temple would stand. In the commentary on the portion Vayera, the 7th Lubavitcher Rebbe wrote that Isaac attained the holiness of a burnt offering, a level of sanctity unmatched by any other human. Isaac existed in a state of heightened divine revelation, which is why he lived near the well of Lahai Roi. Isaac's sacrificial act is directly linked to the events involving Hagar and Ishmael. Noah was part of a prehistoric generation of sinners and couldn't change the situation on his own. However, through miraculous divine intervention, Noah and his family were saved during the flood. The Lord gave Noah clear instructions on whom and what to take aboard the ark. However, subsequent events reveal that Noah took a grapevine. The Lord didn't command Noah to take grapes, but neither did he forbid it. Yet the presence of the grapevine became one of the reasons for several negative events that are known from the Torah. Several versions exist regarding the forbidden fruit eaten by Adam and Eve. One of them implicates grapes. We support this version. Grapes were indirectly responsible for the original sin and the infiltration of evil into the world. Grapes also led to Noah's fall, who could have become the new Adam. This is evidenced by the prohibition for Nazirites to eat or drink anything from grapes. Thus, a pattern emerges akin to that of Abraham. Noah is miraculously liberated from evil's grasp, but doesn't completely sever ties with evil. The consequences are well known. The logical question arises, why did Noah take a grapevine even though the Lord didn't command him to? And why did he specifically choose grapes over any other fruit or seed? The answer is obvious. Noah took what he liked and what he feared losing after the flood. Lot's wife Lot and his family were under the sway of the inhabitants of Sodom, great sinners themselves, and couldn't break free from this association. The Lord miraculously saved Lot and his family and forbade them from looking back. Lot's wife disobeyed the Lord's command, looked back, and turned into a pillar of salt. Again, we see the pattern of Abraham. The tie with evil isn't completely severed. It's worth noting that the transformation of a person into inanimate nature is unique in the Torah and requires explanations, which we will provide in due course. Jacob and Laban. Jacob spent 21 years under Laban's rule, a magician and sinner, and then decided to break free from Laban. However, Laban caught up with him. So once again, the Lord miraculously saved Jacob and his family by appearing in a dream to Laban and instructing him not to speak either good or bad to Jacob. The miraculous nature of this salvation is confirmed by Laban himself, who acknowledges that he could have inflicted great harm on Jacob, but refrained from doing so at the Lord's command. One might think that the tie with evil had been severed. But no, that's not the case. Rachel stole Laban's idols, which served as instruments for performing rituals of black magic, and consequently, were spiritually linked to Laban. There are many theories as to why Rachel did this, but we won't dwell on them. What's important is the fact of stealing someone else's property. Rachel didn't inform Jacob of her theft, realizing that he would never approve. Subsequent events took a tragic turn. Laban accused Jacob of theft. Incensed, Jacob sentenced the thief to death, unaware that the real thief was Rachel herself. But this is precisely what happened to her later on. Once again, we see the Abraham pattern. The tie with evil wasn't completely severed. The Exodus. When leaving Egypt, many Egyptians joined the Israelites, forming a mixed multitude. While the Lord commanded Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, there was no command or prohibition to lead the joining Egyptians out. That decision was Moses's alone. Its consequences were catastrophic not only for the Israelites but for the entire world. During the giving of the Torah, Moses, the Israelites, and the entire world were elevated to the highest spiritual level. However, the Egyptians who left with the Israelites initiated the sin of the golden calf and crafted an idol, worshiping it alongside the Israelites. The Lord intended to destroy the Jewish people. Moses pleaded for forgiveness, and the Lord changed his decision, but not completely. He informed Moses that his presence would be replaced by an angel, a significant reduction in the spiritual level of the Israelites. Moses continued to beseech the Lord not to send an angel to the Israelites, but to remain with them himself. Moses knew that angels don't have independent thought, but are rather like informational programs. Moses also knew that the Jewish people would continue to sin, and the angel informational program would execute punishment, but it could never forgive. Forgiveness can only come from the Lord himself. Confirmation of this can be found in the works of the great Kabbalists Gates of Light by Joseph Gikatilla and Palm Tree of Deborah by Moses Cordovero. The Lord granted Moses' plea, but informed him that the sin of the Israelites was not completely forgiven, and the corresponding punishment would follow. Once again, we see the Abraham pattern. The tie with evil remains unbroken. In all the episodes mentioned, the punishment for maintaining ties with evil was irreversible. The almost complete analogy between events that occurred at different times with different people indicates that an important lesson is embedded within. And this, in turn, requires a detailed explanation from the perspective of Kabbalistic knowledge. Having set such a task, we need to delve into the information structure of creation, explore the role of the concept of evil in information theory, explain the notion of Gestalt Shalut, the concealment of the divine from an information perspective, elucidate why the root of the souls of arch-villains lies at the highest level of holiness, trace the dynamics of character changes in the patriarchs, and touch upon the topic of the commandment of the red heifer. According to the teachings of Kabbalah, the term Kabbalah translates to reception or acceptance. It's believed that when one engages with this doctrine, they receive and accept hidden knowledge. Kabbalists view Adam as the first individual to embrace these insights. They posit that Adam expanded his consciousness, able to name various animals he had not previously encountered. The teachings of Kabbalah are associated with the forefather of the Jewish people, Abraham. Kabbalists believe it was he who possessed the Sefer Yetzirah Book of Formation, Spir Rar Yetzires. These teachings were passed down through generations, carefully guarded and transmitted only to prepared individuals to prevent them from falling into wrong hands. Historically, there are varying accounts of the emergence of Kabbalistic teachings. References to it can be found with Rabbi Akiva 100 to 120 CE, a popularizer of the oral Torah and hidden knowledge. The first mention of the Sefer Yetzirah is attributed to him. The development of Kabbalah occurred in 13th century Spain. Rabbi Moses ben Nahman Ramban became one of the greatest interpreters of the Talmud and a teacher of Kabbalah. His teachings spread throughout Europe and other communities. A key concept in Kabbalistic teachings is the existence of the 10 sefirot channels through which God governs the world. Each sefirah represents a specific quality of God, which manifests an individual striving for knowledge. Kabbalists believe that studying Kabbalah requires prior knowledge of the Torah and Talmud, proficiency in the original language Hebrew, and only then can one embark on Kabbalistic studies. However, in our time, there is an accessible form of Kabbalah for everyone, allowing for study without such strict requirements. In summary, delving into the teachings of Kabbalah unveils a profound understanding of the universe's structure and our place within it. Through exploring concepts such as the sefirot, the concealment of the divine, and the interplay between good and evil, we gain insights into the intricacies of creation and the human condition. One of the key takeaways is the notion of continuous spiritual growth and enlightenment. Kabbalah emphasizes the importance of inner transformation and the cultivation of divine qualities within oneself, such as wisdom, compassion, and understanding. By aligning ourselves with the divine attributes represented by the sefirot, we can elevate our consciousness and harmonize with the cosmic order. Furthermore, the study of Kabbalah underscores the interconnectedness of all existence. It highlights the interdependence of the spiritual and material realms, emphasizing the unity underlying diversity. This perspective encourages us to cultivate empathy, compassion, and respect for all forms of life, recognizing the divine spark within each being. Moreover, Kabbalah offers profound insights into the nature of good and evil, portraying them as complementary forces within the cosmic balance. By understanding the deeper significance of challenges and adversity, we can navigate life's complexities with resilience and faith, knowing that every experience serves a higher purpose in our spiritual evolution. Ultimately, the teachings of Kabbalah invite us to embark on a transformative journey of self-discovery and spiritual enlightenment. By delving into the mysteries of creation and aligning ourselves with divine principles, we can transcend limitations and awaken to our true potential as co-creators of reality. In addition to its profound philosophical insights, Kabbalah has also influenced various mystical and esoteric traditions, including Messianic Judaism. Within this context, the figure of Jesus holds a unique significance, as he is regarded by some as the fulfillment of messianic prophecies within Judaism. Messianic Judaism represents a movement that integrates elements of Jewish tradition with beliefs in Jesus as the promised Messiah. This fusion of Jewish heritage with Christian faith reflects an attempt to reconcile the teachings of both traditions within a unified spiritual framework. From a Kabbalistic perspective, the figure of Jesus embodies archetypal themes of spiritual redemption and divine union. Some Kabbalistic interpretations view Jesus as a manifestation of the sefirah of Tiferet, representing the harmonious balance between divine attributes such as mercy and severity. Moreover, the Messianic concept in Kabbalah extends beyond a singular historical figure and encompasses the collective consciousness of humanity's longing for spiritual redemption. In this sense, Jesus serves as a symbol of the potential for inner transformation and the realization of divine consciousness within each individual. However, it's important to note that interpretations of Jesus within the context of Kabbalah and Messianic Judaism vary widely, and not all adherents of these traditions share the same beliefs or perspectives. Nonetheless, the exploration of Jesus within the framework of Kabbalistic thought highlights the richness and complexity of mystical interpretation within Judaism. If you found this exploration of Kabbalah and its intersections with Messianic Judaism insightful, consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth discussions on spiritual and philosophical topics. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on our latest content and join a community of fellow seekers of knowledge and wisdom. Don't miss out on future insights and perspectives. Hit the subscribe button now.